Oh, it's very erotic in my ear hole. Wow, that felt like a false start more than anything else. It's like you're someone who's never used a microphone before and you're like fascinated by it picks up what I'm saying. How fun.
I'm just sat real awkwardly.
Oh no.
Oh god. Ugh. Because we're in here for the long haul.
We are. We always are.
And why is that?
Because this is Film Franchise Fortnights on the Cult Popture podcast. This is a podcast where every 2 weeks myself, AJ, and my friend Richard, we watch a different film franchise and then get together and discuss it.
No, when I said what's that, I meant what's a microphone?
Oh, shit. I can't explain a microphone. It's magic as far as I know. All right. This is what people are tuning in to hear. How are you, Richard? How's it going?
Yeah, I'm good. I saw you the day before yesterday.
That's
it was
right.
our first time interacting in person since the big move.
Mm.
It wasn't,
Was
though.
it?
No.
No.
We saw each other 48 hours.
So there wasn't that at all, and there was nothing that special about it other than it had been a while.
No, it's never special to see or talk to you.
I don't think I've ever been still so familiar with someone I've moved cities from, though, than with you, because we just talk every day still and do this podcast. So it's still like seeing you in person the other day. It didn't feel like, oh, I've missed you. It was like, hey, man.
Yeah. It was more like, you again.
Ugh,
like,
cannot get away from this guy.
Like, people ask, like, oh, how's AJ doing, like, since he moved? And you guys still talking? I'm like, yeah, we talk every day, but, like, it sounds so lame, but, like, we just happen to, because there's always hot memes and fresh content.
They're all never expect there to not be hot memes and fresh content in our lives, man. It happens every day. Just today,
especially two hot young men who share their fresh young content.
Yeah. I mean, like, if I go to Reddit right now and I go to, like, I don't know, like, our
Clip Clop
television, and we can read what the headline is today. I mean,
and I'll go to our movies and I'll tell you what piece of interesting thing there is.
AMC pulls talking with Chris Hardwick after Chloe Dijkstra's troubling allegations.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Oh, no.
Just said John
Chris
Bernthal
Hardwick
joined Christian Bale and Matt Damon in drama biopic Ford versus Ferrari from director James Mangold.
A lot of exciting words in that sentence. That's more up in spirit than the headline I read out.
Chris Hardwick.
Yeah.
Possible rapist.
Old, never really liked him to begin with, but probably irrelevant to mention that part, Chris Hardwick. All right, well, let's not talk about Chris Hardwick.
Like 4 of the top 6 posts are about Chris Hardwick.
Yeah, I'm looking at them right now.
Yeah.
No, so this episode of Film Franchise Fortnights, Richard and I are talking about the famed yet simultaneously completely forgotten late 90s, late 80s, early 90s trilogy, the Look Who's Talking trilogy. Now, this is not to be confused with the 2015 comedy about Hitler, Look Who's Back, nor the 1941 film Look Who's Laughing, nor the 2005 film Look What I Did.
Wow.
Those films are not related to the Look Who's Talking trilogy. You're sipping a bit of KFC there.
I am.
KFC drink, not just.
Can you tell Can you tell what drink it is?
What is it? LMP.
Just gave you a wee clue. No, it's not LMP.
What is it? I'm looking at the straw. There's no colour in the straw. Fanta.
Yeah, mate.
Awesome. I was going to go get a Coke or something, but then you were like, I can record now. And I was like, oh, sweet. All right. Okay, so, Richard, look who's talking about Look Who's Talking. It's you and me.
That's good. That's good. That's bloody good.
The Look Who's Talking trilogy. It will, actually. The Look Who's Talking trilogy began with Look Who's Talking in 1989, directed by Amy Heckerling, who has actually got quite an interesting filmography. She also directed Fast Times at Ridgemont High, which is a very seminal kind of 80s teen movie.
Speaking of seminal, these films all featured
feature semen. You're right. Sperm. The semen's implied by the sperm.
Yeah.
And she also directed Clueless, which is another pretty good. But in between those two movies, she directed this shit show. So what do you think? Look Who's Talking, 1989, starring John Travolta, Kirstie Alley, and the voice of Bruce Willis as baby Mikey. What do you think it has on Rotten Tomatoes?
Oh, I'd guess 50.
59, a little bit more than what you're hoping. But despite very middling reviews and critical response, Look Who's Talking was a surprise hit and grossed 140 billion 888 million. No, 140,000. Wait, I don't know, 140 million. $140 million domestically, with a worldwide of 296 million, and it made it Travolta's
that's a lot of simoleons.
Yeah, it made it Travolta's most successful film in 11 years since Grease, and the fourth highest grossing movie of 1989. And although Pulp Fiction is widely considered to be John Travolta's mainstream comeback, this was the first commercially successful film since Staying Alive in 1983, in which he appeared.
Wow.
Now, for those who have never heard of Look Who's Talking, what is Look Who's Talking about?
So Kirstie Alley plays a character,
Molly.
What? Jess is laughing at me, and I don't know why.
Who's Jess?
Oh, she just didn't know that Kirstie Alley was in Look Who's Talking, and she's a big fan apparently. We should interview Jess on the podcast one day as being Kirstie Alley's only fan.
Yeah. All right, Kirstie Alley plays Molly.
Yeah, so she gets all knocked up by her, someone who she's not involved with in a relationship. And then she has a baby, but this baby, for some reason, has the voice of Bruce Willis, but it is in a monologue, which is kind of like a lazy narrative device. But they grow up, and then John Travolta comes into the picture, and he's like, "No, I'll help you raise the kid," and hilarity ensues.
It does ensue. Sweet. So apparently, despite it being a pretty average movie, it was successful enough to spawn a sequel the very next year with Look Who's Talking 2, as in TOO, not TWO. And that was 1990, also directed by Amy Heckerling. And what does that have on Rotten Tomatoes, do you think?
Oh, I'd guess 30.
14% on Rotten Tomatoes. And my least favourite but only piece of trivia I could really find about it here is it was also nominated for 2 Razzie Awards, including Best Supporting Actor for Gilbert Gottfried and Worst Supporting Actress for Roseanne Barr. Great. The Razzies are a thing to bring up because they're funny.
Yeah. The Razzies are stupid, man.
The Razzies are stupid. So what is Look Who's Talking 2 about?
Basically, John Travolta and Kirstie Alley are now together. They've got Mikey is a little bit grown up, but they have another child. Actually, they have their child at the end of the first film, and it's voiced by Joan Rivers. But then it's grown up a little bit by the time we get to the second film, where it's played by...
You're like, it's grown up. This baby.
Well, I say that because this child is like Spawn of Satan horror movie looking. Like, this girl, if she was never cast as like the creepy kid in a horror movie, it's like one of the biggest wastes of a career ever, because she's terrifying in this movie.
And Look Who's Talking 2.
No, maybe in the third one. Anyway, I'll get to that later on. But anyway, in this film, she's voiced by Roseanne Barr.
That's fun. She's relevant at the moment.
Yeah, she is relevant because she's a huge racist.
She's relevant because she's quickly becoming irrelevant.
Yeah. Like, she's like, they made a show about Trump supporters to show that they're not huge racists, and then it got cancelled because the creator was a huge racist.
So Look Who's Talking 2 is more or less the same as Look Who's Talking, except now there's another baby.
Yeah.
And she speaks. And so they sort of babies can communicate to each other with their A-list celebrity voices, but not other humans, and that's, I guess, important.
Yeah. The babies can understand each other, eh?
Yeah, they can. So apparently both Look Who's Talking and Look Who's Talking 2 are considered to be the end of a weird baby movie boom from the late 80s and early 90s, which include other things like
Baby
like
geniuses.
3 Men and a Baby and stuff like that. And so, what'd you say?
Baby geniuses.
Oh, right. I thought you said Terminator Genesis. And I was like, well, maybe, I guess so.
What a random one. That would be great.
So the third film in the series was called Look Who's Talking Now, and that came out 3 years after the second one, just enough time for everyone to forget that this series of films even existed. And that was directed by
And just
Tom...
long enough for me to be born.
Yeah, exactly. Me too. And that was directed by Tom Ropalewski. And what do you think that has on Rotten Tomatoes?
About 5.
It has 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. Wow. It has joined our 0% club, along with what else?
I can't remember.
No, there was a couple, like Critters 3 has 0%, I think. And the film was also a box office bomb, partly due to the fact that it came out the same opening week as The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Okay.
So which of those movies has stood the test of time? That's what I ask you. What is Look Who's Talking Now about, Richard?
Well, so now they want to get a dog, but here's the thing. The girl from the second one has now grown up into the spawn of Satan. And I don't mean this in any kind of like actual plot way, just the girl, the actress, is horrifying to look at.
There's actually a pretty famous gif from this movie of that girl like shaking a toy, and that gif has probably outlasted the movie in terms of like it's standing legacy, really.
Look who's
I can tell you her name.
Talking now.
Well, I could actually. I clicked out of it.
GIF.
She's
girl GIF.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, if you search Look Who's Talking Now space, it fills it in with GIF.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, yeah.
So they get, you were saying they get dogs.
Oh my god, she's terrifying to look at. It's like, think like the twins in The Shining kind of thing.
Well, it's kind of the same, like, casting. Well, this was less intentional, but like for those who've seen Hereditary, the new horror movie out, the main girl on that is quite a peculiar looking little girl, and she's this sort of like a proto Hereditary. So, except she's not supposed to be scary. She's supposed to be like this cute little girl. Because, fun fact as well is that while John Travolta and Kirstie Alley return for Look Who's Talking Now, Bruce Willis and Roseanne Barr don't, because the children are now old enough to not need internal monologues.
Yeah. It's interesting that Kirstie and John are in all three.
Yeah.
It feels like a very not get everyone back kind of series.
Yeah. But there is an important element you haven't told us yet from the plots, Richard, of Look Who's Talking Now.
That is the dog speaks now.
The dog, Look Who's Talking Now.
And it's voiced by Daniel DeVito.
Danny DeVito, and there's another dog that's voiced by Diane Keating.
That's right, yeah.
And so they...
Oh, and John Travolta's gets a new job, and his boss wants to fuck him. Like we all have at some point.
Yeah, exactly. So now that we've said what these films are about, Richard, what's your favourite one? Doesn't that feel like a...
yeah, I don't know. I think the quality wasn't... Like, honestly, I think the quality didn't diminish as much as I thought it would, or as much as the Rotten Tomato scores would indicate. Like, I don't think the third one is horribly worse than the first one, because it's not that great to begin with. I mean, it does have that terrifying child in it, so that is some serious points against it.
Yeah, the main problem is more that Look Who's Talking is probably worth less than 59% in the first place.
Yeah.
And so you go from like, boy, this is an average movie, to, boy, this one's not as good. And then, I don't know, I feel like Look Who's Talking Now might be the most unfocused movie I've ever seen.
It does have, I don't know. Like, it's interesting because... you know?
Yeah.
It's interesting because, like, we've been accused of and admitted to not paying the most attention to the films for this podcast, but I actually really paid attention to these films. But like, I didn't really have my phone on me, but I don't have a great memory of them.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe that's because I watched the first two at the start of the fortnight and then waited till last night to watch the third one. However, we do. I'd probably rank them in order of when they came out. But yeah. Before we continue on to all this other stuff I've got written down, I have some up top useless statistics.
Yay!
I've only got two though. This is our second franchise, the second franchise that we've covered on this podcast that is either titled or was going to be titled Daddy's Home. So one of the original titles for Look Who's Talking was Daddy's Home.
Oh,
so I thought that was interesting. And this is also our fourth franchise, which we've covered on this podcast, which features at least one movie with a talking dog after Beethoven, Lady and the Tramp, and 101 Dalmatians, and our third talking dog franchise where the dogs don't talk in every film. The only franchise I just mentioned in which the dogs do talk in every film is Lady and the Tramp. So Beethoven and 101 Dalmatians have at least one to two films where the dogs don't talk at all.
Wow.
Although, all of this being said, Look Who's Talking Now is hardly a movie about talking dogs.
Look Who's Talking is hardly a movie.
But, like, for the reason your movies are famous is because you see babies talking, and then for the third one to be like, now the dogs are talking, that is, like, there are long stretches of plot which involve no dogs talking and no babies talking either.
Yeah, and just John Travolta's hot boss wanting to have sex with him.
Yeah.
And
which
Kirstie
is weird
Alley
because,
being crazy about it.
Because Look Who's Talking Now is actually like the G-rated, I don't know if it's G-rated, but PG-rated entry in the trilogy.
Yeah, you mentioned that when we got this, that like you said, it's a franchise where I think the first two are a bit more adult orientated, and then the last one is like, not. But they're pretty, like, I didn't notice a way more of like a G rating on the third one, but it is like it's one of those like, who are these movies for kind of things, because
yes, exactly.
Especially the first one's quite dirty, but like, who above the age of like 10 would enjoy the plot
or the novelty of Bruce Willis voicing a baby?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. It's a very strange.
And it is a who are these for movie kind of thing. And for the third one being G-rated or PG-rated or whatever, it's also the only one that has like a working plot about like someone being seduced, I guess. Well, I guess the first one has elements of that. But one thing I think that these movies are probably most famous for beyond their initial concept is that all three begin more or less with a scene depicting sperm voiced by celebrities racing to the eggs during coitus. And the I don't know how to describe this. The look of the environment in which the sperms are racing in is one of the most like weirdly visceral like portrayals of what I guess the inside of a penis would look like.
It's sort of a vagina.
Well, I guess they go from one to the other, don't they?
Well, we don't see them like it's the fallopian tubes, isn't it?
Is it? Okay.
Yeah,
well,
because
whatever.
we don't see
I don't
them
know how sex works.
Leave the penis.
Okay. So basically, yeah, the sperm race to the egg in each movie, and they're in like these very like glowing fluorescent white
fallopian tubes.
For tubes, and like it looks very, I don't know, I want to say it looks real, but like alarmingly so. Like at least in Son of the Mask, it was just like kind of vague where they were,
especially
where they were
for like
floating
the 80s. It's real like, how did you do this?
It looks really, really good, despite it being kind of uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah, dude, fuck, that's the word, eh? These movies just made me uncomfortable.
Because it's combining, like, sex jokes with children, and you're just like,
yeah.
Did the children know?
And, like, I'd been watching the People versus O.J. Simpson while I was watching these movies, and so to see, like, John Travolta drastically change. It was quite interesting.
True.
Because he's actually pretty decent in both of them. Like, I actually reckon he's not too bad in Look Who's Talking. Like, he's pretty likable, and it's kind of like peak John Travolta.
He has since said that he feels that his character James from Look Who's Talking is who he's most like in real life.
Oh, well, of course you'd say that.
Yeah.
Because it's like, dude, he's just a real nice guy.
So, I think if we're going to be talking about probably the most iconic thing from this movie, it would probably be the talking baby. That's the namesake of the movie. That's why it spawned.
That's why it's called
2 sequels.
Talking Baby.
Yeah. But Bruce Willis was not the only voice actor in the running to play Baby Mikey.
Ooh.
Also approached were Chevy Chase, Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Steve Martin, and John Candy. But they were all busy on other projects. And Robin Williams was also approached, but wanted too much money. I could see Bill Murray and John Candy and Robin Williams. I feel like Chevy Chase and Dan Aykroyd and Steve Martin probably aren't as well known for their voice acting abilities.
I can definitely see them. I reckon that Chevy Chase plays Karate Dog.
All right. And what?
Karate Dog.
I've never heard of Karate Dog.
Oh.
Is that another dog franchise we need to add to the...
I actually don't know if it's a franchise, but I know like Joel McHale was trying to buy like every copy of Karate Dog and then just like leaving them on Chevy's desk and stuff at Community.
It is interesting though that all of those guys are more or less comedy actors, and then they went with Bruce Willis. Although I guess before Die Hard he was in Moonlight and stuff. So Moonlight.
Yeah.
Not Moonlight. He wasn't in Moonlight. He was
in La La Land.
Yeah. Would you have preferred any of those actors over Bruce Willis?
No, I mean, I don't know. I think they all probably would have done a pretty decent job, but yeah.
Yeah, it's not hard.
I don't think it's the right tone for Robin Williams.
No, I feel like Robin Williams was... I can imagine his shtick as Baby Mikey, and it's like... Like, Bruce Willis is kind of like this... New York everyman character. So it'd be like, hey, Ma, what's going on? Come on. Hey, I'm Bruce Willis.
Yeah, whereas Robin Williams would be like, oh, hey, Ma,
exactly. Yeah.
Gotta give me,
and Bill Murray would be like, oh, I guess I'm a baby.
Who's that?
Bill Murray.
And then who would Dan Aykroyd be? He'd be like, oh, ghosts are real. I ruined Christmas with the Cranks.
What a callback. John Stamos was also the first choice to play James, but the producers of Full House wouldn't let him out of his contract to take the role. What a shame. Oh. Michael Keaton, Mel Gibson, Jeff Goldblum, and whoever Griffin Dunn is, I've never heard of him before, were also considered for the role of James before it went to John Travolta.
Oh, yeah.
There was no trivia about who would have maybe played Kirstie Alley's character, but I did find a piece of trivia that said Kirstie Alley... in her memoir, she said that she fell in love with John Travolta during filming, but decided to stay faithful to her husband.
That's a weird thing to reveal.
What a weird thing to say.
Maybe that's why she joins Scientology.
Because she was trying to impress John Travolta.
Yeah.
We've all joined a religion to try and impress a girl or a guy.
Yeah. Come on. If you say you don't, you're lying.
I've also included a section here that I know you love, Richard, called Dumb IMDb Trivia.
Oh, yes. I love dumb IMDb trivia.
This is trivia that was clearly put in there by someone who just wanted to say something, and it's not really trivia. So in the trivia section on IMDb for Look Who's Talking 2, this is one of the entries. This is under the warning spoilers.
Okay.
Section.
So there will be spoilers for Look Who's Talking from this point out, okay?
Yeah. Mikey saving Julie by getting her out of the burning apartment is Mikey's redemption for being mean to her for the way he treated her. I didn't know that just basic plot structure was trivia. So Julie is, of course, his younger sister, and at the end of the film, the house catches on fire, and so he gets her out.
Just so you know, I did find that really funny, but I waited to respond because a phone started ringing. So I was like, I won't respond. So you can just cut that part out and then.
But now you've said this.
Yeah.
So, for Look Who's Talking Now, by the way, did you know that the last name of the main characters is Ubriaco?
What the fuck?
Which is like Italian for drunk, which I'm just like, why?
What the hell?
So we never see the Ubriacos. All right, so this is for Look Who's Talking Now. This is a piece of trivia. We never see the Ubriacos, Rox and Daphne again. The Rox and Daphne are the dogs. And we never find out what happens to them after the movie ended. So not having another sequel is now trivia, according to this IMDb user. So that's the dumbest IMDb trivia I could find.
That was suitably dumb. I loved it.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Do we want to talk about any more to do with the plots of these movies? Like, not that we're nearly finishing up or anything, but like, is there like something you like I noted how in the second one a big plot of it is basically like James and Molly are still fighting because Molly's brother moves in, and it just like serves nothing to the plot. And,
that's right.
like,
yeah,
and things like that. Like, if we really want to dissect how stupid these movies are, it's because beyond, like, certainly the last two really don't have much in the way of structure going on.
Yeah.
And that third movie is like, is it a movie about a talking dog, or is it a movie about a husband being seduced by his boss? Like, and these things are not like, they don't flow into each other.
The dog saves him at the end.
That's true. They do. They do tie it all together.
From the seductress.
Yeah. And then he loses his job, and then you don't see them get a new job, I think. Which is kind of disheartening because they just got two dogs to took care of.
You should put that on IMDb.
Yeah. We never find out that is kind of. We never find out what happens to the Brachios, Rox and Daphne again, and we never find out what happens after the movie ended.
Unless we somehow manage to continue the franchise.
Exactly, but before that, one of the things I do want to talk about is the titles, because we talk about titles a lot on this podcast, and I think the titles for this trilogy are my favourite thing about the movies. I love the titles here. I love when sequel titles are non-numerical. I love it when it takes the first title and like changes something or adds something onto it, like Shanghai Noon and Shanghai Nights. So Look Who's Talking, Look Who's Talking 2, and Look Who's Talking Now. They're nice, they're consistent, and they kind of read like a suburban mum explaining the core concept to one of her kids. Like, she'd be like, look who's talking. Look who's talking too. Look who's talking now. It's the dogs. Have fun. So yeah, do you have any thoughts on the titles? I love them. I think they're great.
No, yeah, I think they're the best.
They might be the best titles of movies in a franchise that we've covered on this podcast.
But yeah, and if they made another one that just called Look Who's Talking 4.
Yeah. So now we're going to move on once more to continue the franchise. And this is a segment where Richard and I each come up with a sequel or a continuation of the franchise to kind of squeeze more money out of it or just play the game of the podcast. However, the Look Who's Talking trilogy has been continued on already in some capacity, most notably between the second and third film. Amy Heckerling adapted Look Who's Talking for TV. The show was called Baby Talk, and it was basically just the concept of the first film with different actors and character names. It starred a few famous faces like George Clooney, Scott Baio, and Tony Danza, who provided the voice for Baby Mickey. Baby Talk ran on ABC's TGIF lineup for 2 seasons and a total of 35 24-minute episodes, and over the past 2 weeks I watched all of them. I should amend that actually. I couldn't find the first 2 episodes, so I watched 33 of the 35 episodes over the last 2 weeks, which means I watched an extra 792 minutes of this franchise, which, adding the 3 films, meant I spent 1,065 minutes watching the Look Who's Talking series, making it my second longest franchise after Freddy vs. Jason, I think. It gets so much funnier, dude. You just wait. I have been holding this. The last time I kept a secret about the podcast from Richard, the result was the exact opposite from what it is now. So I've been nervously being like, oh, I haven't watched Look Who's Talking Now yet. You know why? It's because I was watching 33 episodes of ABC's Baby Talk. So before I get into what the show's about and what it offers to the Look Who's Talking canon, the best thing about this is the funniest part, man. I couldn't find it. I couldn't find it anywhere. And so you type in Baby Talk and no one knows what you're talking about because it's such an obscure thing. It ran from 1991 to 1992. Yeah. And I was just about to give up looking for it when I found a website called TrueTVMovies.net, which specializes in finding rare movies and TV shows. And I emailed a very nice woman named Dawn who sold me the first 2 seasons, or the only 2 seasons, of Baby Talk for $55 New Zealand dollars. I then downloaded them and watched them between Look Who's Talking 2 and Look Who's Talking Now, and the best part is they were taped off the TV, so I saw some like hilarious American 90s commercials.
Oh my god, that's awesome.
I might use some in some later in some videos for Cult Pop Show. So yeah, I watched 33 out of 35 episodes of Baby Talk, starring Tony Danza as the baby Mickey. It's Mickey instead of Mikey, which is a nice little reference to the movies because there's a scene where Mikey's dad in Look Who's Talking thinks he's called Mickey, and there's a scene in Baby Talk where Mickey's dad thinks he's called Mikey, and Mickey's dad is played by Tony Danza. So isn't that like a cool little, like he's in one episode. So anyway, the show was critically panned. From the get-go, critics criticised the simple writing, overplayed character traits, and the fact that the show centred on a talking baby who happened to have a single mother instead of Look Who's Talking, which was a success due to it centering on a single mother who happened to have a talking baby. The 1991 Electronic Media Critics Poll voted Baby Talk the worst series on television. And I watched it all, well, nearly all of it.
And was it worth it?
No.
What did it cost?
55 New Zealand dollars. After the first season, in an effort to retool the entire thing, this is so interesting, dude. It's basically an anthology series because after the first season, the entire show's like setting was relocated. The main character, Maggie Campbell, was recast after the original actress left because she couldn't cope with the negative criticism, and the new actress was joined by 100% new characters except for the pair of twins who played Mickey and Tony Danza as his internal monologue. So this is nuts, dude. The first season is about this woman and her talking baby, and she's they're living their lives in an under construction apartment, and 2 to 3 contractors, one of whom is George Clooney, are the characters, and there's also her pediatrician who has a crush on her. So those are the characters, and it's basically like, it's a talking baby, and he just quips about, he'd be like, whoa, that's what I call da 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 da, and things like that, and it's Tony Danza's voice doing it. One of the characters I do want to give a shout out in the first season was called Mr. Fogarty, and he talks like this, and he's like this old man, and like there'll be like a George Clooney has a crush on a girl, and he's like, oh, do I sense some love in the air? And it was just a really funny performance from Mr. Fogarty. But the second season, which is doubly as long as the first season, so I feel way more connected to the second season, is about Maggie again and her talking baby, and now they live in a New York apartment, and she slowly falls in love with and eventually marries Scott Baio's character, James, who is like the super for the building.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it has a really cool theme song as well. I've just listed things I wanted to talk about. The theme song goes, he likes bread and butter, he likes toast and jam, and that's what mommy feeds him, because he's her little man.
I've heard that before.
Yeah, it's an actual song that's like been adapted for the show. And my sister was getting furious at me because whenever I'd sit down to watch this, I'd be like, hey, Maddie, and she'd be like, what? I was like, what would you prefer, bread and butter or toast and jam? And she's like, I would keep disguising questions that would end up being bread and butter. I'd be like, when you have a kid in like 10 to 15 years, Maddie, and she's like, what? And I'm like, will you feed it A, bread and butter, or B, toast and jam? And she's like, I won't feed it either. I'll be like, but he's your little man. So the critics were right in that the talking baby aspect is kind of like underplayed. The second season, especially, mostly is just a bunch of classic 90s sitcom tropes like unresolved sexual tension and will they, won't they relationships. And most of the baby-centric storylines are pretty uninspired. There's an episode called The Prince and the Pooper where Mickey switches places with like a fancy baby. So
that's such a classic trope.
Yeah. However, there was a great B story in one episode where baby Mickey is trying to get rid of his teddy bear that he hates called Bobo, but all the adults keep finding it and giving it back to him. So like Scott Baio finds it under the couch. He's like, "Oh, hey, Mickey, here's Bobo," and just the camera like zooms in and out of Mickey, and he's like, "No!" I like that. And there's also a great joke in another episode where Mickey learns to speak in real life, and he's obviously speaks like how the kid actually speaks, and his internal monologue laments over the fact that, quote, he sounds like a baby or a pimp squeak when he speaks, but sounds like Tony Danza when he talks to other babies. so like they acknowledge Tony Danza in the show. There is a scene, though, in Season 2, Episode 12, The Man Who Would Be Grandpa, which I think is probably better than any scene in any of the movies. This takes place after half a season of flirting. Scott Baio's James confesses to Maggie his feelings and tries to appeal to her after she kicks him out of her apartment because she's too afraid to get hurt again. And I'm going to send you this clip that I uploaded from it, Richard. And you're going to watch it, and I'll play the audio on the podcast. So watch that and tell me what you think.
Maggie, open up! Maggie!
Okay. James, I already told you I don't want to do this.
You don't want to do this so much you had to take a cold shower.
It wasn't cold.
Liar.
James.
You're a teeth-chattering, goose-pimply, blue-lipped liar.
And you are a bully.
What?
Well, isn't that why you came back up here to try to bully your way into my bed?
Well, why don't you drop it, Maggie? You're not afraid that I'll get under your sheets. You're afraid I'll get under your skin. You're so afraid to let me get close to you because that means that you'd have to feel something for somebody again. Let me tell you something. People who are afraid to take risks, they spend the rest of their lives taking showers and end up lonely old ladies with big water bills.
James, I'm just afraid of getting hurt again.
Of course you're going to get hurt again. Even when love goes right, it hurts. It's the great cosmic joke. I mean, it's a miserable, torturous path to sheer agony, but it's the only thing worth living for. So you can spend the rest of your life playing it safe, or you can take a shot on the guy downstairs who thinks that you're worth all the pain.
Are you through?
Yeah. Will you at least think it over?
No.
No, you won't even think it over?
I think I've done enough thinking for one night.
So that for those listening who can't actually see the footage, it pans across the hall of the apartment to Maggie's neighbor who's watching, and she goes, "Yes." I don't know. I like
it's worth
that
noting
scene.
that she's African American.
Yeah, racially diverse cast. That I feel like that Scott Baio's monologue and that is like, it's reminiscent of like something like Scrubs doing its old like emotional wrap up and that kind of thing. What do you think of it?
Did it hook you in? Pretty bad, and I think you definitely drew the short end of the straw in terms of TV watching.
So even just from that clip, you were like, "This is a bad show."
Yeah, well, even just like the quality you had to watch it in.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not the same as you watching all of Scream, but as soon as I found out that the franchise after Scream had a TV show based on it, I was like, I have to find this. It was worth the joke because I can see the smile on your face and I know that I've achieved something here.
Yeah. But now we just have to do this every time.
Yeah, no. Next time there's a TV show based on a
or
thing,
like a comic book or a Broadway musical, we have to fly to America and go to the musical without telling you.
Film franchise Fortnights is expanding to being everything involved in the film franchise.
Well, but now we have to, and also like there has to be very strict not looking up the other franchise when it's not your week.
I won't expect you to watch another TV show again, don't worry. And I hope you don't expect that of me.
Oh,
and maybe
I
our
bloody
listeners
do, mate.
So the weirdest part about all of this for me is that between is that I did it, but between when I watched the second to last episode and the last episode of Baby Talk, someone edited in a synopsis for the final episode on Wikipedia, meaning that by pure coincidence, someone else in the world was at least thinking about Baby Talk enough to edit the Wikipedia page for that specific episode.
Wow.
And that synopsis for the final reads, they get married and they go on a honeymoon and the baby lets the new daddy go with them. No capitals, no grammar.
Oh my God.
And that's a joke from within the episode, which means that whoever edited it maybe watched it as well. Maybe it was Dawn from TrueTVMovies.net. I don't know. But it was real weird because I was like, was that always here? And I looked at like the Wikipedia edit logs and it was like updated the day before. And I was like, what the hell? Who else is thinking about the series right now? Like it's so hard to believe that anyone else in the world would be thinking about it other than me right now.
Yeah. That's so funny. Is it the most you ever spent on a franchise as well?
Probably, yeah.
Trying to think what other costs we've endured for a franchise.
I bought the Jurassic World DVD.
Oh, yeah?
I bought Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2.
You bought Land Before Time.
Yeah.
I bought you Scary Movie 5.
None of those, add up to they're all in separate franchises. So I think $55 might be the most I've spent on one episode.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on.
That's unreal.
Beyond
although something like Ghostbusters, that cost or Transformers, that cost $30 just to go see the most recent one.
So beyond Baby Talk, the only other Baby Talk of making more Look Who's Talking movies has been from Fast and Furious producer Neil H. Moritz, who inexplicably said in 2010 that he wanted to reboot the series. And there's also the occasional rumour article about another sequel on various tabloid sites. And one of the IMDb dumb trivia sections suggests that maybe the next film could follow Mikey's children. However, this is not my idea for Continue the Franchise.
What?
My idea for Continue the Franchise is called Look Who's Talking Still. And it stars Bruce Willis as a grown-up Mikey and either James or Molly, so either John Travolta or Kirstie Alley's character, one of them dies, or they both die. And so Mikey and Julie, who maybe shouldn't be played by Roseanne Barr, they've been estranged for years, right? They never talk to each other anymore, but they reunite to deliver their mother or father's body from one side of the country to the other for the funeral. But here's the twist, Richard. John Travolta returns as the internal monologue for the dead body.
Nice.
So it's Look Who's Talking Still.
Because he's still.
Yeah.
Stationary.
And he's still talking. It works on multiple levels.
Yeah. Well.
I think that's one of my best CTFs ever.
Yeah. And you know what?
What?
In a film franchise Fortnights first,
yeah,
that was my idea as well.
No way!
Bruce Willis returning in Look Who's Talking Still as an adult Mikey.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Right down to the title?
Yeah.
And did you have the dead body idea?
No.
That's pretty weird.
I did have a dead parent.
That was the first thing I thought of was the dead body talking.
Funny.
I was like, what's the opposite of babies?
Look Who's Talking Still, or I kind of look Who's Still Talking, just to interrupt the flow.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's a Bruce Willis playing an adult Mikey in Look Who's Talking Still was my idea.
Wow. Well, I also have, if so people get their value for Continue the Franchise, I do have one more idea.
Oh, yeah.
Called Look Who's Singing, and it's a Broadway musical of the first film.
Nice.
Or continuing from your Scream idea for Continue the Franchise, I would like to get those first two episodes of Baby Talk somehow. So if anyone has them taped, please send them over to me because I feel incomplete having not seen the first two episodes.
Yeah. Did you get a discount for that? Or was it supposed to be more than that?
No, it was. This is how much 33 episodes costs.
Right.
But go check out TrueTV.net. They're very, you know, it's good. I can vouch for them. So, like, because I had to email them and be like, is this a legit thing? Because I didn't want to, like, send them money. And they do DVDs, but I was just like, just send me the digital.
Right.
So go check them out if you're looking for something obscure and can't find it anywhere.
Oh yeah, so I was trying to think of like, because Look Who's Still Talking or Look Who's Talking Still is kind of like the obvious. Did you think of any other like possible like titles that still make a sentence?
Look Who's Talking Forever.
Oh yeah, because it's 4 as well.
Because he's dead as well. So
Look Who's always talking.
Yeah.
If the next one's just called Look Who Won't Shut Up.
The world is overrun with talking celebrity-voiced babies. Look who won't shut up.
Yeah, it's an epidemic.
Yeah.
That's my
It's like that joke from Shrek where Fiona's like, when she meets Donkey, she's like, he talks, and Shrek's like, yeah, it's getting him to shut up. That's the trick. Good stuff.
Yeah, Look Who Won't Shut Up. That's mine.
All right. Cool. So that is more or less all I had to talk about in Look Who's Talking. I've been sitting on that egg for 2 weeks, and I'm glad it's been received so well.
Because you were like, oh, don't look up anything. And I was like, oh, all right.
There's like a true crime story or something happening.
I was like, oh, some fucking dumb AJ shit.
No, it's because
there'll be a real well-written joke that AJ wants to go on about.
No, what it was is I didn't want you to find out that Baby Talk existed because I knew at the very least you'd be like, oh, you should watch it as a joke. Yeah. And I was like, I don't even want you to suggest that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, like worst case scenario, you would have also bought it from truetv.net. But I didn't think that was as likely as just you being aware of it would have ruined the joke somewhat.
Yeah. And like, do you know what? I have Googled Look Who's Talking because I just wanted to know who played what, and I never came across the fact that it existed. Oh, and even just as we were talking, I tried to look up the TV show, and it was hard to find.
Yeah, it's really hard to find. All right, so now to round out the episode, Richard and I are going to play a little game of franchise roulette where we choose the next franchise for us to cover. And I think we're having a guest on the next one. Still got to confirm that. So I've got the guest franchise list in front of me now.
Oh, yes. Sweet.
Richard, do you want to give us a random number?
Yep.
The guest franchise list for complete transparency contains franchises that are no more than 5 films, so we don't inundate someone.
No, we should because we're not always great at this. Let's just double check that we've deleted all the franchises that we've done.
I mean, it's still random. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but we don't want to.
Look who's talking's there.
Yeah,
so I'll delete that. But it's still it's not like because we don't delete one.
Yeah,
you know,
but
it's still a randomly chosen franchise.
Yeah, it completely changes what it is, what the number would be, though.
Yeah.
All right. Let me just check how many are on this list.
Oh my gosh, it's 270.
161.
161. I don't believe it, Richard.
Oh my god, this is
This has happened again. You know how when we got Look Who's Talking, I was like, oh, I was talking about Look Who's Talking with a friend the other day. We were talking about this series together, when we were hanging out.
Yeah, literally 2 days ago.
I don't think what you're writing there now is correct.
Well, should we double check? Because...
All right, so... Next week, possibly joined by a guest, next franchise we're doing is the 2, possibly 3 film franchise, Cats and Dogs. Our 5th dog-themed franchise. God, I cannot believe that. Cats and Dogs, so that's... I'm pretty sure, we found a Christmas edition in the mall the other day is what we were talking about, but I think that was just the normal movie, as a Christmas special. But I know it's Cats and Dogs 2 Revenge of Kitty Galore or something like that.
Yeah. Okay, it does appear. Wait, can you go back to the mall and find that one and see what it was?
I think it was just a Christmas edition of the first film.
I don't know. I would like to double check.
Well, anyway, please. Oh my gosh, I'm looking at all the ones around it. Nah, I feel like it's the ones around it are of exactly the same caliber as Cats and Dogs.
What do you mean? Oh, the ones on the franchise list?
Like 100 from 158 to 162. It's all like Daddy Daycare / Day Camp, Big Mama's House, Johnny English, Cats and Dogs, and I guess I wrote Porky's. I guess is a different thing.
Porky's is completely different.
But then Mr. Bean's further down, and then the Pee Wee Herman movies. Anyway, all right. Yeah, so, okay, I'll message our potential guest and see if they're keen to do Cats and Dogs 1 and 2. And we'll see you next week.
And because we share a Instagram account, I will also see the messages, and I'll get to see AJ flirting.
I'm not flirting. She's probably going to listen to this. Don't say that. Why are you even reading our messages anyway?
You asked me to.
I didn't ask you to. If you enjoyed this, please follow us on SoundCloud, subscribe to us on YouTube, like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and email us at coldpoptionmedia@gmail.com.
It's good content.
It's not good content. All right. Good night, everybody. Thank you for listening.